And now we're live.
Do you remember that Seinfeld episode where Kramer was speaking too much and he was getting himself in trouble with Jerry, and so Jerry said, I'm going to take an oath of silence. I'm not going to speak. And then he opened his mouth. He goes, I thought you were going to go. And now. Wait, okay, sorry. Ready? And now. That's basically what this show is like. Literally. It's when are we going to start? We started. I start talking for a few minutes, and then Lance says, hold on a second, let me just press record.
So Lance has been recording the whole thing upside down.
Or he records the whole thing upside down. Yeah, it's, we're putting this together with shoestring strings.
I heard it's getting great ratings.
It is getting some. Where'd you read about it? You probably read some review somewhere.
I think something you tweeted.
You get Variety also?
Spice a lot.
This is my dear friend Steve Hirdt. Now, what is involved in saying the word dear twice before the word friend? It's this, and I mean this wholeheartedly, and he knows it, so I'm not going to make him feel uncomfortable. If asked and pressed to take one person with me to a desert island, one person, I mean, just for like a day, who would it be? It would be my friend Megan. She's really fun. No, it would be Steve.
And if she's not available?
If she's not available, there's like a whole host of people. So it would be Steve. Steve, you were the very first guest on my show. Steve Hirdt is the president of the Elias Sports Bureau, which provides statistics to all the sports. So if you're ever watching a baseball game and there's any stat underneath, or a football game, and the Niners are 0-5 against the spread at home, like, who comes up with that? Steve's people come up with that.
Well, Harper wouldn't be very happy if you didn't pick her.
Oh, we're talking about the desert island thing?
Yeah.
She'd be so much trouble. Are you kidding? It would be so hard. Oh, when he eats something, I want to pop and change my diaper.
Has anyone else been on your show twice, or am I the first one?
No, we've had a few twice.
Really?
Yeah.
Anybody three?
Yeah, we had one person three. It's the same person. It's Jasmine Loeb has been on. She is the sex columnist for the New York Observer.
Okay.
Which is
Haven't read this.
Ivanka Trump's husband.
Oh, right,
Exactly.
So
we can't talk politics with her. But we talk a lot of other things.
So we can talk about Trump. You know what it is about Trump?
What?
Trump is tall. He's a tall guy.
Tall guy, yeah.
And there's this thing called extra long ties.
Yeah.
Like, somebody wants, because I'm tall, sometimes I get a gift of an extra long tie. But these extra long ties are made for, like, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
George Mirasan.
Nice call.
Thank you very much for that.
Two George Mirasan mentions during
we
in
could
one,
go the
in one
next 20
show.
years and never say his name, and I said him twice.
So I'm looking at Trump, and Trump always has the crisp white shirt. He always has the suit, and usually a solid blue or solid red tie. They are so long.
Oh, do you think they're too long?
I think somebody has foisted these extra long ties.
Are this thing of power? Maybe they said to him.
I don't know. You watch next time you see him come up on stage.
Right.
You see how long those ties are.
Now that's interesting. Of all the things they've spoken about, the size of his hands, his head, his hair, the ties is what really drew you to him.
I was hoping Marco Rubio wasn't going to go there, but
he went
so
there.
I did instead.
So instead, you went with the ties.
I did.
Okay.
But you started out with Seinfeld. Last time I was on, you asked me my favorite Seinfeld.
Yeah, and it took you, 6 months to figure out what it was?
Well, I made a mistake. I gave a lame answer. I gave a contest, which is, everybody always goes there. It's like if you never saw Seinfeld.
You would say the contest.
But recently, I was watching Seinfeld, and I didn't realize these two plot lines were in the same story.
It's
the one with where they see this statuesque woman, Sue Ellen Mishkin, walking down the street.
Sure, with the bra.
Only in bra, like your previous guest.
Yeah. Her father was the 100,000 grand.
The
heir.
The candy fortune.
Was it 100,000 grand?
Which one?
100,000 is the was the heir to not Baby Ruth.
Henry.
The O. Henry heir. Yeah.
All right. So anyway,
we could do this for 12 hours.
The great courtroom scene where they're putting her on trial, and it's a takeoff on the OJ trial.
Sure. If it doesn't fit, quit.
Right.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't.
That's right.
This doesn't fit.
And then the Johnny Cochran type lawyer says, no, you have to put it up against your skin, same as a glove.
Right.
Well, anyway, that's the same episode as
one of the great phone call voicemail messages of all time.
Where
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Steinbrenner character thinks that George Costanza is dead.
Right.
Goes over to George's father's house, knocks on the door, goes in, he says, I got bad news for you, George is dead. And George's father looks at Steinbrenner and says, how could you trade Ken Phelps? And he goes, my baseball people said we knew. No, how could you trade Jay Buhner? How could you trade Jay Buhner?
Bald Jay Buhner.
My basebal people told me I needed Ken Phelps.
That is so... Well, as a baseball guy, of course that was your favorite.
Those two were in but there's a lot of baseball references in Seinfeld. But those two plot lines, which are so funny, were in the same episode. I'm now going for that. It's called The Caddy.
Oh, it's called The
That
Caddy?
one's
I love
called
that they all have the titles.
Yeah.
I still like that backwards episode. You could stick your stories in a sack, where they did the whole episode backwards. No show to date has ever done, before or since then, has ever done anything like that. But these guys did. I recently saw Jerry Seinfeld in concert at the Beacon here in New York City.
Right.
He was fantastic.
Was he good?
Never cursed once. Never ripped on anybody. But
He does
was
that as
absolutely
a mark of honor. I think he does it as a. I think among comedians, I think I've read this thing that he thinks a lot of comedians think that if they work blue, as they call it,
That means being safe?
it means,
Or not being
means
clean?
using
Okay.
words you'd only use on HBO.
Right.
That it's easier to get laughs, so he doesn't go there.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Gotcha.
So did you watch the NBA Finals?
I watched Game 7
Right.
of the NBA Finals, a little bit of it, and I
Find
only.
yourself rooting for Cleveland or the Warriors?
Well, I'm sort of taken in by Stephen Curry,
Right.
Steph Curry, and only because I'm obsessed with his training regimen. The guy really, really trains hard, and I have obviously a soft spot for people who like put the time in. That they're not just God-given, gifted athletes that get out there and
Right.
show up on the day of the game. The guys that like. I mean, I'm sure you've seen documentaries on some of the things he does. Like, he'll bounce like 1,000 times with one hand while he's like lifting weights with the other, and then
Right.
blindfolded bouncing with the weights. And like, his training is so intense. So I was going to root for him, and then I realized that Cleveland hadn't won anything in like a gazillion years. It would be nice to share the wealth a little bit. Didn't Golden State win last year?
Yes.
So I found myself switching.
Okay.
But then again, I talk about all this. I fell asleep halfway through the first quarter. So this was
It's
a
a
short
pretty exciting
conversation
game.
with myself.
Okay.
It was. And I was happy for Cleveland.
All right. So you're
I mean,
happy.
did I need LeBron to win one more? No. I mean, he won one with Miami or two with Miami?
2 with Miami, and now 1 with Cleveland. But
Okay.
he said it's sort of the arc of the story of the playoffs was here was this guy who grew up in Northeast Ohio,
Who are we talking about?
LeBron,
Okay.
and he when he became a free agent, he left to go to Miami for 4
Yes.
years. A lot of people didn't like that in Northeast Ohio. They booed him viciously when he
Right.
came back. After 4 years, he free agent again. He decided to come back to Cleveland,
Right.
and now leads the team back to the promised land. It's a lot of the same people who were booing him before now.
Are now
putting
applauding
his
him.
poster up.
When I was with NBC, I didn't do many stories on NBC Nightly News, but for whatever reason, they felt like this was the one for me. So they sent me to Cleveland, and I did 4 stories for NBC Nightly News on LeBron coming back to Cleveland.
Really?
Yeah,
What this was like 2 years ago, maybe. That was
this was
I
2
think
years
that was
ago.
when he came back.
Right.
Yeah.
So I knew what was going on in Cleveland at the time, and I felt it in all parts of it, and that was it. And then of course, you know what happens, like. Facebook lights up. Oh, one time I passed through Cleveland, so I basically Cleveland, yes. I could spell Cleveland, so Cleveland, yes. They just like when Prince passed, all of a sudden everyone made their like Facebook post purple, and it was like Prince was the greatest musician of all time. Meanwhile, a lot of people hadn't listened to Prince music, and it's wonderful music in a very long time.
But you didn't do that.
I did not do that. I kept the profile picture of me
You
doing
changed your
something.
profile picture for it?
No, and I actually have been looking for a good one, but I find now that the bar is so high because like profile
Because you have
pictures.
such a good picture up there already.
No, I
Oh,
do
thought this
on
was
my
a little
Instagram and
self-complimentary
Twitter.
on your part.
Facebook, I don't have an amazing one. It's me kissing my kid, but I don't know what to put up there. You want one of my face? You want one of me doing something? I'm not getting guidance from Lance. He doesn't tell me.
I think we're going when we do the Prince thing from Cleveland next week.
Then we'll
the
do
Rock
it
and Roll
then.
Hall of Fame with Prince.
Okay, that's a good
I
idea.
think you.
Rock and Roll
Okay.
Hall of Fame Prince is going to be on next week.
Well, we're going to broadcast from there in
So
honor
I
of
think we have a
Prince
bigger
and
story
Cleveland.
here.
George. It's what is it? George is dead.
I think that'll get ratings.
That'll get ratings. That will get ratings if we got Prince back on the show. But yeah, so
you were invested in Cleveland. You went there. You did all.
I
these
went there. I
stories.
did all those stories.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, is it a city that I'd want to go back and live in and spend the rest of my life? No. This is where I'm at. I'd like to see the Knicks try to do something. Didn't they just get somebody?
Yeah, Derrick Rose.
Derrick
from the Bulls.
Rose from the Bulls.
He's got 1 year left in his contract. He's been hurt most of the last
Inside
4 years.
NBA. I think you've lost everybody. What
All
I
right,
want to
he's a
know
great guard.
is
Great point
LeBron
guard.
James better than Michael Jordan?
Very close. I put them both among the top 3 all time. And the thing about LeBron James is he is probably more versatile than Michael Jordan. He can do many more different
Because
things.
he's taller.
Taller, stronger. He can play many more different positions. He can play positions against
But
the big
Steve,
guys.
isn't that a product of the times we're in right now, that they're really training and bringing these guys up and coaching them to play more than just two-guard or something?
Isn't everything a product of the times? Right?
Yes, but that's the question I'm asking that made me sound smart.
Well, then if we're judging the time we're at now, then James is much better. Michael Jordan's in his 50s now. But
you're right. Michael Jordan sucks.
If you're saying was Jordan better at his time than James was now, Jordan was a better shooter. He was probably a better shooter, especially at the end of the game.
Yeah.
But James's thing isn't to shoot and score. He does that, but
it's the
he's
facial
more of
hair.
I was going to go into the passing and the defense.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the passing and the defense.
And the facial hair.
And the facial hair.
But James, I'd say is almost you couldn't design a better all-around player, I think, than James. Now, having said that, Jordan won 6 titles within essentially a span of 6 years. He took a year off to play baseball. Another year he came back right at the outset of the playoffs and they didn't win. But in 6 full years, he won 6 titles.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing. Now, guys back in the real old days, Celtics like Bill Russell won. What did he win? I think he won 8 titles in a row, 11 total.
Yeah.
League was smaller then. If you had
it's
a good
hard
team,
to
there was no
compare
free agency and
yesteryear
stayed
to
together.
now.
So it's like year to year is tough. But and the other thing about LeBron, really, that people always go back to when he left Cleveland to go to Miami. He decided to do it on a television program. It was hosted by Jim Gray.
I remember
They called it The Decision. And
right.
They trumpeted it for
and
a
they
couple
sold
days
it in commercials. Yeah.
And everybody said, it was a lousy way to do it.
Right.
And maybe it was.
Right.
But think about this. I mean, LeBron James has been in the public eye since maybe for 20 years, since he was a high school prodigy basketball player.
Right.
If that's the worst thing people can say about
I know, you're right.
I mean,
you're right.
in a TMZ world,
I know.
people with cell phones following around.
Plus all that facial hair.
I mean, the guy says the right things. He acts the right way. He complains about fouls that are called against him.
Right.
Who doesn't? That's part of intensity when you're playing a game. But I think for a guy who's been in the public eye from the time he was 13 till now, I think he's got a pretty good track record.
We're going to pivot for a second because you're the only one that would appreciate this.
Okay.
As I'm going to bed last night, I'm starting to read about we're going to talk politics for 1 second. I'm reading about how the Democrats are staging this sit-in in Congress right now.
Right.
And I'm seeing them sit on the floor. I see that the Republicans have turned the cameras off in Congress. I see that now it's live on Periscope. Like, people are taking pictures of it. It's building. By the time I wake up this morning, it's like the breaking news. The Democrats staged a sit-in. They want gun control. The Republicans are like, we're all going on vacation. Like, we're never going to talk about this. And I'm like, and I walked out, and I wanted to sound smart to Steph, and I was like, you know what? I am tired of the Republicans. Like, the Democrats want to get stuff done. The Republicans are like, yeah, shut your cameras off. And yeah, we're leaving. We're going on vacation. I'm like, how is anyone supposed to get them done? It's all the Republicans' fault. The Republicans are Republicans' fault. Then I read the rest of the article, because you know me, I only read the first 2 paragraphs, and it's like when Kramer saw the article. I made the first 2. That was really good. When Kramer watched the end of the movie, and they didn't pull the plug on him. He's like, no, I don't change my DNR. Then I read the rest of the article. Republicans did the same thing in 2008. They staged a sit-in. Nancy Pelosi comes in, shuts off the cameras in Congress. They did the whole sit-in. They did the exact same thing. And so, you know what? I'm just done with politics. It's too much for me. I can't
whoever
anymore.
has the advantage presses it on the other one.
Yes, that's all it is.
The other one complains until they have the advantage.
And then they you don't think if it was the other way around, the Democrats would be saying, no, the sitting president has no right to elect a judge, a Supreme Court judge. There's no way we're going to get him out. We're going to delay.
I think there was some quotes from Joe Biden to that effect.
Yes.
At some point that came up when Justice Scalia died. Yeah.
Look, you understand how I feel. I get very emotional.
I'm telling you, I mean, the fact that you went to bed reading about this sitting and woke up discussing it this morning.
I mean, it's a lot.
See, I went to bed with the TV on last night, and I was watching a game, a Dodgers-Nationals game. It was a close game. Fell asleep. Woke up this morning, and I knew because in the middle of the night, I woke up to ESPN channel replaying the last play of the game, where Yasiel Puig of the Dodgers, losing by 1 run with a man on first, hit a ground ball single to center field. But the center fielder ran in and missed the ball and rolled all the way to the fence. And he ran all the way around the bases, a guy ahead of him, and the Dodgers won. So the announcer was screaming his head off. That woke me up at around 3:30.
Does this have anything to do with my politics? Or this is just a random story you're telling me?
What I was doing when I fell asleep. So we were talking about that kind of a connection.
Gotcha. It's all bringing it back
together.
together.
By the way, the guy who the ball went under his glove in center field, lost the game from Nationals, Michael Taylor.
Is his great uncle
he batted
like
5 times last night. He struck out 5 times.
And that happens.
And then in the bottom of the last inning, the ball went under his glove. That was a rough night.
The only thing worse would have been if you told me that his uncle was like Wade Boggs. Wait, no. Who was the one? And who was the one in Boston?
Bill Buckner.
Bill Buckner. If you told me his uncle was like Bill Buckner.
You've divorced yourself from sports pretty completely.
Not totally.
Your audience may not know your sports background.
I did sports, professional sports, as a sportscaster for 12 years. One of my assignments was to cover the Mets, the New York Mets. I sat in the press box and I looked around because what am I going to do? Cover the Mets. Like, eventually I'll figure out what's going on. So there was a guy sitting next to me, this tall guy. He looked like a dry cup of coffee, and I'm like, all right, well, this is the guy that's sitting next to me in the press box. This guy's going to be my friend, because who else am I going to talk to?
Do you have any dry coffee here?
And it turns out that it was Steve, and Steve and I have become like best friends ever since. That's how we met, because this would never have happened anywhere other than either a desert island or the press box for the New York Mets.
I remember you were doing a post-game show.
I've had some
Keith
doozies.
Hernandez once.
I'm sure I did.
And I had told you had given me your number. You said if anything, if you ever have a really good stat, you help me.
I needed stats.
And so I called up a Mets player that they had stolen home. Very rare thing where the pitcher's throwing the ball to home plate, and the runner on third races the ball in and slides across. I thought really the most exciting plays. And a Met player hadn't done that since Tommy Agee in the 1970s. I told you that right before you went on.
Right. I'm nervous.
And you got it. You came out with it right.
I did?
And Keith Hernandez said, what? That's amazing.
Keith Hernandez.
That's
well, I would check out that third base coach. I don't think he's waving you home.
I knew we'd get back to Seinfeld.
Of course, everything in our lives gets back to Seinfeld.
Second spitter.
Yes, there was a second spitter. If there was a gun to my head, I could speak in only Seinfeld lines for.
Didn't you do that
like
for a while on your sports? When Jenna did sportscasts local in New York, she would put a Seinfeld reference in every sportscast.
And you guys do that the rest of the show?
Just talking Seinfeld lines, or we can make references with lines. We'd have to practice a little bit.
We could probably do that. But Jenna would outdo me, and she knows. I think she knows where the script's in it.
No, but you have really useful information in your head. I have like the most random, useless information, like random Seinfeld lines. So that's it. That's what's going on. What's the next big sport coming down would be not baseball again already, football?
Well, baseball, it used to be baseball had like several months by itself in the summertime.
No, everything bleeds into everything.
Now, baseball, there's the Baseball All-Star Game, which is next month in San Diego, and then the Hall of Fame induction. Preseason football starts in early August.
Really?
Yeah, preseason football.
All right, so we're going to be able to go back on camera and on Periscope and see that you said this, but who is going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Well, it's too
Who's
early
playing?
to think about that.
That's my point. I don't want you to think about it. Just pick a team.
Seattle.
Seattle is going to win the Super Bowl. Now, if Seattle wins the Super Bowl,
then
you're going to win a free T-shirt. You're going to win a Jenna Wolf Show T-shirt.
If they go 6-10.
If they go 6-10.
Jenna Wolf Show T-shirts.
Not yet, but there will be, just because of this little bet that
designed
we
by
just
the previous guest.
Yeah, I need one Jenna Wolf T-shirt, an extra large, long, with a tie.
A long tie.
Extra long tie, please. Thank you. This is cool. This is how we talk. We go out for lunch, and we had this exact same conversation, but it's without a Lance sitting there with his Periscope.
And without a doubt, the steadiest hand.
Practice.
The steadiest hand.
He does really
Unless
well.
you actually pound on when you pound on the table.
Oh, did I? That is one steady hand. Now, I was noticing when your previous guest was on how he
He's really good with it.
He moves it back
he knows what he's doing.
To get the single shot.
I will just tell you this, as a statistician,
yes.
The only 3 stats that I remember more than anything are, one, that Frank Reich had the best comeback from any team, quarterback,
Right.
mounted the best quarterback of any game.
Remember what team he played for?
The Buffalo Bills.
Nice.
And after him was, what's his name? The quarterback that took over after Frank was Jim.
Actually, he was filling in for Jim.
Right.
At the time, he had that great comeback.
Great comeback. That was my first.
Quarterback happened to be
Yes,
playing.
and I'll just tell you a side note real
Kelly
quick.
was
Jim
on
Kelly. I went on a radio show. It was a radio sports trivia show in Rochester, New York. And how random was it that that was the question that was asked, and I jumped in there with the answer, and I was like, "That's it. I'm out." And that was the one thing. And I got off the phone as quickly as possible because I didn't know anything else. Number one. Number two, there was an actor that played in that show. His last name was Savage. He was the only NFL player to ever record 2 safeties in one game.
That was Fred Dryer.
Fred Dryer was his last name.
And it was
Fred
Savage. Fred Savage was a child actor who never played in the NFL.
All I know is that his name was Savage.
He recorded no safeties for
Fred.
his career.
I meant the one thing I know is that his name was
Fred. He played no games.
But Fred Dryer was on a TV show.
Fred Dryer was on
an
Hunter.
NFL player for many years.
Yes, he's the only player to ever have 2 safeties in one game.
He was on Hunter. And Torrey Hunter played 2,000 games in the Major League Baseball.
Yes, and he's a good-looking guy with a big butt because he did a lot of squats.
Okay. That's 2 stats that you...
Yeah, and then the third stat is the one I already used, but I'm going to bring it out again, that in 2013, in the preseason, the Niners were 0-5 against the spread. In the preseason.
In preseason? Somebody was betting against the spread in preseason? Was that you? Were you betting the Niners games in the preseason? That must have been a dull period in your life.
I'm just telling you, I don't know where I picked it up from. I was practicing, I was probably memorizing something, but those were my only 3 stats. And yet, look at this friendship that we have maintained throughout the last 20 years. Easily? 15 years? 10 years?
15?
I met him about 12 minutes ago.
When did you come to New York?
I came to New York in 2000. 2002.
2002?
Yeah, 2002. Wow, it's a very long time.
Now you've got these great studios.
Now we've got this amazing studio with awesome lights and an amazing camera person.
I love it.
Do you want to shut down the show and go out for lunch?
Yeah.
You want to do your close?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break. Steve Hirdt, Elias Sports Bureau, the best.
Would you mind if I asked a quick question?
Please, I would love to.
You said that there were 3 players, that Jordan and
James.
LeBron were the 2 out of the 3. Who was number 3?
For me, it's old-timer Wilt Chamberlain, who, and a lot of people are down on him because he didn't win a lot. He only won 2 championships because he was always the foil for Bill Russell's great Celtics teams that played in the same division. And Russell had better players around him. Russell was a great player in his own right. But Wilt, to me, was the first great big athletic guy. He was 7'1", and there weren't guys who were 7'1" in the league. So everybody said, oh yeah, Wilt was great because he was tall. This was the most athletic guy who was ever 7'1" in my mind. The trouble is, he started playing, I think, in 1959 in the NBA. There was virtually no film of NBA games that weren't on TV. And his most athletic years are lost to history. So now when his name comes up, you watch. If his name ever comes up, they do a little B-roll on him.
Yeah, it's all the ladies.
It'll be from the Lakers at the end of his career after a big knee injury, and he was much more limited in his movements. He couldn't run the floor anymore, lead the fast break at 7'1". But he was, he would be my 3rd pick. Those 3 guys, I think, were the 3 best. And there have been other great guys: Kareem, Magic Johnson, Bill Russell, all those guys.
I'm just going to say, and then we're going to take a break, like if I had to throw a 3rd guy in, I obviously differ a little bit from Steve. My guy was Danny Ainge. I thought in '86 no one put together a better sort of full court, stop, go, top to bottom game than Danny Ainge, who also, by the way, played 3rd base for the Blue Jays at one stop in his career. But, a lot of people think differently. That's just my opinion.
Do you have him in your top 3 baseball players of all time?
Him, Michael Jordan, and Deion Sanders are my top 3 baseball players.
Okay.
Cha-ching! I still have it. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.